This episode of the Better 2 podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. Hi gang, Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better 2 podcast. Today's guest is Karen Theimer. Karen and I talk about her journey at 50 years old, which was about 6 years ago, how life suddenly was upended and how she had to, even though she had been a cancer survivor and that was a really tough thing, at 50, she suddenly was getting a divorce, and how, in a way, she didn't realize it, but she manifested that on her wedding day. We talk about that, and we talk about how she changed her life and continues to change to this day. So enjoy. Hi, Karen. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. It seems like today may be a better day, knock on wood, than the last time we attempted this when we had Zoom internet glitches where it was like every other word neither one of us could hear. So it would have been a fun-filled podcast for everyone listening. Not to mention us, but. So let's talk about 5 years ago, you were turning the big 50. I know that's a big deal because I hit the big 50 already and I'm past that. So I understand. So what was your experience as you were turning 50? What was going on in your life, and how did you, what did you end up doing that was making.
What's my story?
Yeah. What's your story about it?
What's my story? Thank you, Donna, by the way, for having me on as your guest on your show today. And yes, we definitely have better reception than we did last time. So, so actually it's now 6 years ago. I have to now change my script now. But I was turning 50, and I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm turning 50. And that's a big deal for a lot of people, right? It's like, oh, wow. Because we sit there and we go, wow, look at, where's my life right now? So for me, it was like, okay, this is how the first part of my life looked like. How do I want to live the second? And life has definitely thrown me some curveballs. I think I'm 12, 13 years as a cancer survivor. And when I turned 50, life threw me another curveball and I became single. And I was like, okay, so I guess this is how the next part of my life will look like, right? And it was a blessing. It was a blessing. And I'm very grateful him and I are still friends. So, which is great. So for me, my marriage ended and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to survive, right? By myself as a single income for one, right? So exactly, you get it.
My husband passed away a year and a half ago, and I'm in a whole flux. So I totally understand where you're at. So go on, continue, please.
And I'm sorry to hear, my friend. So for me, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So one of the hats I wear, I'm a massage therapist, and I've been practicing for 15 years. It's a brick and mortar business. I love it because I love to help people, but I can only work so many hours in a day before my body breaks down, right? So I thought, okay, I got to really focus on my massage business and really build that so I can, survive on my own, right? And pay the rent. But it's funny how the universe works, right? Because at that time, also a network marketing company showed up in my life. And I thought, no, I don't want one of those. I don't want one of those. I need to focus, right? But again, the universe always has something different to say. So bottom line is I went to an event and I ended up joining this network marketing company that I've been with for 5 years now. But my point is that a year later, I went to an event that was geared towards network marketers, right? I mean, it could be geared towards anybody. But the host of the show said, his name's Eric Worre, and he said, if your business and your life hasn't changed in the last year, go find out what your blocks are. Well, I was destroying my business. I didn't even realize what was happening energetically, right? So my massage business, for whatever reason, was going downhill. My network marketing business had just plateaued. And I thought, so I went up to one of my leaders, one of my mentors, and I said, okay, Dr. Bob, I have this thing called a block. And my life hasn't changed. And matter of fact, actually, I'm getting more in debt and I don't know what to do here, right? He said, go find a coach and who understands network marketing. And I've been in the health and wellness industry, like I said, for like 15 years. And go find find someone who understands health and wellness. So I did. I hired a coach. Oh my gosh. I had no idea how our mind works, right? All I knew is I was stuck in the past. I wanted to let go of the past and I needed somebody to guide me. in the right, like somebody just point me in the right direction. So like I said, I hired a coach. My friend, introduced me to like the Esther Hicks, said, you need to go listen to Esther Hicks if you know who she is. And we're both of them, Esther and Abraham, and go listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza. And so I started understanding how the mind body work together and how much control we actually have of our thoughts, right? So fast forwarding, I started diving deep into this because I've had different coaches who have taken me to different levels. I've been on a healing journey since 2018 because I got tired of living in my past. What I had no idea is the doors that things would open up for me, right? Just by one person saying, if your life hasn't changed, go find out what your blocks are. So that's what I did. So from there, I've been just, diving deep into my own healing journey. And then when all this, when all the COVID first started and everything got shut down.
COVID?
I don't know. So they call it COVID. I call it George now because I'm so sick of the word.
I'm kidding. It's just like COVID.
There was chaos going on in this world. Let's just call it, I don't know, George. I don't know, something else, right? No, because there's some nice Georges out there. So anyway, so when the cuckoo-ness, we'll call it, when everybody shut down, obviously I had to shut down my business, my massage business. And I was very grateful I had the network marketing company, but I was like, okay, I need to pivot. So I did. And I was like, I love coaching people. I do it anyway. I do it naturally. And I love when I do healing on myself, I want to share with the world, hey, guess what? You don't have to live this way, right? So I decided to, and I've been talking about, making a business out of it, but this gave me the kick in the butt that I needed. So I decided to rebrand, expand my business, and add coaching into it. So that's where 50 and Free Coaching has, where it came from. So under that umbrella, it's all about, are you approaching your 50s? Maybe you're in your 40s or 30s or in your 50s and feeling stuck and just need someone to help guide you and point you in the right direction, right? So under that umbrella is around health and wellness. Are you looking to just get through the day? Maybe you're an empty nester, maybe you're divorced, single, maybe somebody's passed away, a loved one, whatever that is for you, I help guide you along the way. So that's kind of the 50 and Free.
Okay.
That umbrella.
And I mean, that's the thing. Nobody really thinks about it. We think that everything's going to be rolling on. I mean, for me, you were talking about 50 being a big deal. For me, every time I hit that 10-year landmark, it was a big deal. When I hit 30, it was like, okay, so, and at 30, women have certain expectations placed on them. Yeah. And if you haven't hit those expectations, then people are like, well, I mean, I remember my grandmother saying, so when are you going to give me a grandbaby? Though I gave her 2 stepkids for a while, that she was ready for me to have a kid. Well, the truth of the matter is she would never get it. But that was always something that was placed upon me. I mean, had I been a boy, do I think she would have been saying, so when am I going to get a grandkid?
Yeah.
So then you hit 40 and you're like, okay, so now what? In another 40 years, I'm going to be, and then you hit 50 and it's like, okay, so I'm here.
Yeah. Know it.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, I wrote a blog post recently about the fact that they were talking about bereavement payment. Mm-hmm. Like Google is willing to give, and I'm assuming that the person was working at Google still, they will give the spouse of the person half the pay rate, half their pay for 10 years, which is a blessing because no one ever thinks about how much we live paycheck to paycheck. And they were saying that COVID wiped out a lot of people's savings. So the fact of the matter is when you lose that other income, your reality slowly falls apart and you don't know. And that's where I'm at now. It's like, I've been in my house. My husband's been gone since June of 2020. And I'm to the point now, it's like, okay, now it's time to hit the ground because I have to sell the house. I can't afford to stay here anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother upheaval, just like going through a divorce. It's a whole upheaval because not only it's a matter of cleaning out the house, getting rid of the last stuff which there's a lot of stuff, but getting rid of the stuff that I don't need in my life. And so I'm in this purge and I openly admit, I talked about depression and anxiety, but I have woken up 4 nights in a row with panic attacks.
Yeah.
Because the thing is now you're like, okay, even though I've moved across country and everything, you're sitting there going, all right, so where am I going to end up?
Yeah.
What's the next step? And your whole reality that it is about to get yanked. So it's a big upheaval and nobody really thinks about that.
Yeah. And there's so much like I mean, one thing like we're guaranteed in life change day to day. Well, second to second, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, right? Because we just want everything to be a certain way. A lot of people can't deal with changes. There's a lot of things with change that I actually don't mind. And then there's some that it's like, well, I kind of like the way it was before, whatever that is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I know change is good. And sometimes, yeah, you got to go through our shit, basically, right? To move forward and then to evolve, right? It's like, okay, now universe. I do talk to the universe a lot, and I've played with it a little bit. It's kind of can be actually entertaining at times, but yeah, and then it's like, okay, now, all right, so now you got to find a place to live, and we have to go through these things, right? And then it's like, settle in. Okay, now what, right?
Right. And I mean, like this, for me, it's come to the realization after 4 days of this, waking up this way and realizing by midday I'm okay. And then something in my subconscious is obviously triggered. But yesterday I sat there and I realized it's like, this isn't just about losing your husband. It's about the other traumas that you went through in your life. They're all coming up because they were all this massive upheaval. And now it's time to really look around and go, okay, I don't need this stuff anymore. I don't need that anymore. I don't need this past trauma anymore. I have to heal this.
Yeah.
And I think by the time we hit 50, going back to that big milestone, it's kind of like you're more comfortable with, okay, this was my crap and this is somebody else's. So
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Yeah. There's so much to healing, and there's so much to, and again, it depends on what you believe in, right? Like we carry a lot of generational trauma too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, anxiety, depression, whatever that is, right? Addiction, that kind of stuff. And it's just gone down from generation to generation to generation. But it takes somebody to go, okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to break this cycle and I'm going to go on a healing journey and I'm going to go find and discover who I am because I don't want to live this way. But it always starts with a decision, right? Of going, that's it. I am done.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's important to go on these healing. I mean, I think we're on this journey forever, right?
Well, we are. We have to keep evolving. And one thing you said, you were talking about focus. I read cards. So, what you're talking about doesn't.
Oh,
so
cool.
I read cards and I do an hourglass spread. And, as when a client sits down across from me, they're like, I have questions. And I usually sit there and go, you're not going to ask them until after we're done. And they're like, but no, because 9 times out of 10, they'll all be answered in the reading. Okay.
Right.
But the hourglass spread, and I've talked about this several times. The fact I do an hourglass spread is because there's a focal card in that when it goes down to the middle of the hourglass, there's one card that's a focus point, and then it goes out. And a prime example I always use is a client that I had who I was telling her about her kids. She was an older lady, and she was so invested in finding out. She's like, I don't want to know about my kids. I want to know about this man. And I'm giving you the abbreviated version. Her energy was really zapped and everything when I sat down with her. It just was weighing me down. Well, turns out, because she was just adamant, I'm like, I'll come back and read you whatever. Because she didn't find out about this man. There was no information in this reading whatsoever about this man she wanted to know about, just about her family. Fast forward 2 months, she dies. She actually got sick like a week after I had read her. She was already in that, and she needed to know about her kids. That man was irrelevant. And that's the thing. That's what I'm getting at. It's like sometimes, when I'm doing readings, it's like we are focused on, am I going to get that guy? Am I going to get that guy? And it's like, no, you're supposed to be focusing on you or something else. That guy is irrelevant.
Yeah.
But we sometimes we want what we want.
Yeah. I was on part of my journey. I go to these retreats every now and then and stuff like that. And we really dive deep. And that's a whole other conversation in itself. But one of my, I forget when I started. I think I was on that weekend. My intention was around self-love. I hear this thing called self-love. All right, let's hear what this is all about, right? Because I say in my head, oh yeah, of course I love myself, right? But I don't know if you know anything about plant medicines, but part of my journey is that. And what ended up happening that weekend is it was amplified, this shit talk. that I do up here. And it
Mm.
was like, I feel fat today. Oh, look at the cellulite. Oh my God, look at this. Oh, I feel old. And all of a sudden I was like, how am I supposed to work on self-love if I talk like that? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, and the tears, of course, start pouring down,
Hmm.
right? But it brought me the awareness that I needed to see about that talk that I do to myself. So now if I catch myself that, because that's not self-love,
No.
right? So I started going, okay, so if I catch myself going, ooh, look at that. And it's like, no, 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 Karen, you're beautiful. Look at you. So I've been working more on that. And I find that icky talk is getting less and less and less, which is really, but it's hard to change that because we're so critical of ourselves, right?
Well,
So
we're taught to be that way. I mean, we're taught whether it's a parent saying, well, don't be too cocky or too sure of yourself, or, picking out the little kinks of your armor that, well, you could be prettier if that. But the thing is, that's not the only thing we do to ourselves. We constantly, at a certain point, some of us will sit there and say, I'm sorry, because somebody made us feel that we weren't worthy to be around. And I remember the first time I was 18, and my roommate at the time, who was 19, says to me, why do you say you're sorry all the time? And I
mhm.
looked at her like she was insane, because you don't realize you're doing it. And then I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you say you're sorry all the time. Why is that?
Mhm.
Oh, so once you become consciously aware, like the negative self talk, you kind of go, oh. So I know usually now, if I start on the I'm sorry train, my self esteem is not there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that's because that's the way we were raised, between the people putting those little kinks, whether it be kids or whatever. That all starts in those inner dialogues when we're children.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What is it like? I just finished doing this. What was her name? Catherine Varga is the woman's name, and she has a program, a meditation program that's called it's 22 days, but it's a soul child realignment. Oh my God. And one of the things I've been where I know I'm resisting the most, I know that's where I need to go. And I keep getting the same message all the time. Karen, sit quiet and meditate and work on your inner child. Right. And I've been resisting that for like ages. And I'm like, okay, finally, after New Year's, I went, that's it. Because some stuff happened in my life. And I'm like, okay, time to work on this healing, this side of the healing. Right. And so what she does is she goes from 0 to 19. And I think it was like 0 to 9, you're supposed to learn, like already when you're in the womb, you're learning about fear. And I mean, this isn't my expertise, but you're learning fear and love already in the womb. So many people are already, many babies are coming out and they're already living in fear. It's like, this isn't safe out here, right?
Right.
And then what you're supposed to learn at each age, you're supposed to learn these skills. And then she gets into the teenage years. And then, so if you didn't learn those skills, and it doesn't matter which, like, you could come from the best family, the worst family, it doesn't matter. If you don't learn those skills, this is how it shows up in your life later. So there was some anger that came out I was amazed. I was like, oh, there's some anger coming out in me that I have to, now heal whatever that is. But it made sense to me, right? And it
Mhm.
made sense. I'm like, oh, that's why, I didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel like I was searching for love. So I had all these boyfriends growing up and stuff like that. I was just, and they were not nice guys, right? Like I
Right.
went from abuse to addiction to all that kind of stuff. But I was just like, I just wanted to be loved because for whatever reason, I didn't feel like I got it at home. So now then it was like, okay, now I need to forgive myself and forgive those guys back in the day because they're just searching for the same thing, right? Like attracts like, right? As we know, right? So it's definitely been, I now have finished it. I know I still have to work on some forgiveness, the deeper stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to go there. But I know I have to. I know I have to, right? So I know it's important. I don't have to do anything. So it was really cool. And then she does sound healing and stuff like that, and brings your soul child back to you. And yeah, it was a big eye opener for me. Another one.
I imagine so. I mean, for me, it's like I ran across Because I mean, yes, we have tons of stuff besides my husband's and mine. We have his parents, and you know, it's been a journey this past week because I found something that my mom had made me for my bedroom when I was a kid, and we don't have the best. She's gone now, but we don't have the best relationship. And for the first time, I actually got rid of it. I gave it to a thrift store, and one of my stepdaughters. I've had all of her school stuff since when she was in kindergarten and stuff. And I went through, got rid of most of it, and kept some. And I ran across the box, and I'm like, she doesn't want it. I asked her if she wanted it. She didn't want it. So why am I holding this for her if she doesn't want it? So I got rid of that too. It's like, so it's kind of like, dare I say, cutting off the things that don't serve me any longer.
Yeah. And it's holding too much energy, right?
Mhm.
Like it's like this is a lot of energy that I'm hanging on to. And how are we to allow new things to come in if we don't purge out this other stuff?
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to hang that plaque up anymore. It was fine when I hung it up in my kids' room, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to hang that up. So it can go on to somebody else. And if it goes to the trash, it goes to the trash.
Yeah.
But I sent it to a new home.
Beautiful. And somebody else can enjoy it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I look at it, I might not enjoy it anymore, but it might be somebody else's happy thing,
Right.
right?
Right. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's been a journey, and it's going to continue to be a journey. On that note, I got to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Okay. And we're back. So yes, commercial breaks are always fun, but it's the magic behind them later on in post that happens.
Yeah.
So, you had thyroid cancer. I have a thyroid condition. I have not had thyroid cancer, and I hope I don't have thyroid cancer. But how did that all come about for you?
So I went back to school at 40 to become a massage therapist. I always say my past life. I was a dog groomer for 23 years.
Okay.
Canine beautician, I say, because most people are like, what's a dog groomer? Anyway.
How do you not know that?
I used to get so many people, that's a dog groomer. And I would say, as soon as I said canine beautician, they'd be like, oh, okay. Okay.
Although I guess, when I think about it, if I say DJ, if I say I was a disc jockey, people think I was spinning records at a bar. I'm like, no. So now I have to say on-air personality. So yeah, you have to. I don't understand. It's pretty simple, but go ahead about the thyroid issue.
And at one point, I want to talk to you about this hourglass thing, and you've got me curious about it. But anyway, so thyroid cancer, yeah, it was my big wake up call, and I'm actually grateful that I had. So the story behind all that was I went back to school at 40. I started getting really tired, and I figured it was just school, right? I mean, I haven't been to school in 20 odd years or whatever. And I hated school growing up. So yeah, I was tired all the time. Went to the doctor, said, "Oh, you're hypothyroid." So okay, fine, put me on medication, right? So I was on that for a couple of years, and I was a smoker, and I loved Big Macs. I would still love to eat a Big Mac, but I know I wouldn't feel so good if I did. But anyway, besides the point, right? We all have our thing. Anyway, and so what happened after that? Oh yeah. So every day I was quitting smoking, and every day, because as I'm a massage therapist, I'm going to talk to you about health, and here I am eating Big Macs and smoking. It just doesn't really go over very well, right? So anyway, every day I was quitting. Every day I would light up a cigarette. There was one day I didn't smoke for probably, I don't know, maybe 4 hours, could have been 5 hours. And I was like, yay, me, look at me go. And I got in my car, found a half a cigarette, lit it up. And I was so mad. And I looked in the mirror and I'm like, you idiot. What would it take for you to quit smoking? I didn't understand the universe stuff back then. And then
you were just like, hold my hat. I got something for you.
Yeah. I'll show you what it would take for you, my friend.
Yeah.
Let's really give you this. So anyway, 2 weeks later, I found out I had thyroid cancer. So I was like, oh, okay, this is what I needed to quit smoking. So I read this book by a gentleman called, his name's Alan Carr, Easy Way to Quit Smoking. Someone told me about it. I read it. And honestly, by the end of that book, I had quit. So, and I remember it's still my last cigarette going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God, Karen, I'm done. And I put it out, never smoked again. I still get, like, this is now 12, 13 years later. I still get cravings. I say I'm on a break. Because maybe when I reach 90, maybe I might want one then. For me, that works, right?
My father-in-law, and we found this out when we were cleaning out his house. My husband always said that he swore up and down that if he was going to quit smoking, when he did, he's like, I have a half a pack here. If I decide I have to go back to smoking, I have to start with that pack.
Oh my God, it would be stale.
They were not in a Ziploc bag, nothing. They were just in a drawer. So yeah, think about that.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem appealing.
That would be really disgusting.
Right. And I mean, think about it. So if you're going to go back, and I mean, this would have been, so he quit in the 70s and he passed away in 2012.
Okay.
So you know how rank those cigarettes would be.
Well, they'd be disgusting.
Mm-hmm. They might burn really quick too.
Yeah, they might. You never know. But it's funny because from there, I thought, okay, maybe I better start eating better. I mean, we know what's good for us and what's not, right? But I was like, okay, maybe I should start learning more about nutrition. And there was a lady, I worked in a sports clinic, and there was a lady who came in, and she was what they call a holistic nutritionist. And she started talking about how these foods can heal your body. I mean, we learned a little bit in school, but not that much, right? So she was teaching us about that and how it can help athletes and all this stuff, right? So I was like, So I booked an appointment to see her. I also, I had my gallbladder out. I had the worst digestion. Like, my body was not in great shape. And I went and I booked a visit with her, and she started teaching me about nutrition and how it heals the body. And because I don't have a gallbladder, why are you not on digestive enzymes? The whole thing, right? I'm like, I don't know, because doctors didn't tell me this stuff, right? So I ended up actually going back to school. I think I was, 43, 44, maybe 45, somewhere around there. I went back to school again, became a holistic nutritionist, and just started learning more. And then with the network marketing company, I'm partnered with some functional medicine practitioners. So I'm learning lots, right? So it's like, oh my God, there's so much more to the body. And then you tie in the emotions and how our cells hold on to memory. It's like, holy geez, right? And I just got this book called, is it the body talks, the body speaks, the body does something. Anyway, speaks a language, right? So, I mean, this is what I educate people anyway, right? So, yeah, that's the journey on that part.
I think that's one thing that we need to retool in schools. And I know you're in Canada, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Ontario.
So, I mean,
it's cold.
Oh, it's cold. I'm not in sunny. I mean, it was sunny outside today, but it's 29 and it's going to be like, I think, single digits tonight, and we may go negative next week again. We've had a very mild winter, I will say, knock on wood, because we've had before, I think it was like negative 20 with a wind chill of negative 45 outside of Chicago.
You're in New York, right?
Outside of Chicago.
Oh, outside of Chicago. That's right. I don't know why I have New York in my head.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Who knows?
But now I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so I know we were talking about school. No, we were talking about schools. We got off on weather. Anyway, we're talking about schools, and the fact is, it's great that we teach kids how to function in the business world. It's great that we teach them how to prepare them for a job. What we don't teach them is how to really take care of themselves, how to take care of a life, how to reduce stress, how to, get out of an angry situation. We don't teach them what to properly cook. Yes, while you're saying McDonald's would be good, I remember we quit McDonald's, my hubby and I, and then we stopped one day because we were really hungry. And they don't taste the same. After you get away from it, it does not, it's disgusting when you go back. Sorry, McDonald's, but it's the truth. When you taste it after you've been away from it, it's like what you crave suddenly, like the cigarette, is like,
this isn't so good.
No. But I think, and when you think about this, the visual that kids are painted when they're in high school, whether it be in the 60s, 80s, whatever, they're always at the malt shop or the coffee shop. They're always at these food entities socializing. And not that we don't socialize over meals, we do. But should we make it where it's a little bit healthier?
Yeah. But I feel like things are turning around.
Yeah.
Because people are, like, I think, East needs to become friends with West, right? The doctors and the naturopaths, they all need to work together because there's a time and a place for everything, right? And the function. Oh, look at your kitty in the back. Sorry. Oh,
That's Chloe.
hi, Chloe. Say hi. Anyway, my cat does the same. But I think there's a time and a place for everything. And we do need to be more mindful of what we put in our body, right? And our body speaks a language, which is through pain and discomfort, right? But one thing I've learned is that it's amazing how, and this is where the old programming comes in, right? It's like, I don't have time to feel better. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to grind myself to the ground. It's like, well, wait a minute. Right. So, and your body is screaming to you, whether it's through your digestion, through aches and pains, migraine, whatever that is. Right. So yeah.
Well, in the other half of this is when you look at, okay, so my grandmother grew up in the Depression. So my grandmother and I grew up in New Orleans. So we learned how, Monday staple was red beans and rice. Okay. While red beans and rice is awesome, I love red beans and rice. I make a mean red beans and rice. However, that's not the healthiest meal for you.
Yeah.
It's a cheap meal, but it's not really healthy.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. And now with inflation going up the way it is, it's like you have to look at, so how am I going to eat? Because healthy is expensive, but cheap is cheap. So how do you figure all that out and how do you navigate it?
Yeah. And it's like, but eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. And it really actually doesn't have to be expensive, right? Unless you're going organic, that's different, right? I mean, organic is crazy expensive, right? But
or grass fed.
Or grass fed, right? So, right, sometimes it's like just start somewhere, right? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be crazy expensive. Because what's more expensive, being sick or eating healthy?
True.
Right? It's like people get to choose, right? It's like, sometimes it costs more to be sick and unhealthy than it does to, maybe eat some vegetables and protein, right? So, it's just, there's always a choice, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been on a sugar kick lately and I'm like, where is this all coming from? It's like, just give me some chocolate, right? And that's my weakness, right? Or I'll go through phases and usually it's an emotional thing. But I'm like, what do I feel emotional about right now?
Well, chocolate, gives you that feeling of love sometimes. So.
Right. It's so true. So I'm like, I'm just going to enjoy it and then get back on track again. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a human and I love food. Right. So, but yeah.
I think that's the one thing we have to look at. Self-love is such a wild term because people are like, well, self-care and self-love. Well, self-care can be just taking a day and unplugging from your phone. It doesn't have to be go sit in a bathtub and soak. It just has to be taking some time for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being willing to face our past, our negative self-talk. And you got to understand, and that's what a lot of people don't, and you do, is that negative self-talk is tantamount to being and don't get mad at me, folks, but it's tantamount to being an alcoholic because it's addictive. It's the same behavior. You have to physically and mentally step away from that behavior. And I know somebody's like, well, how do you physically step away from a mental mind game? You go, hey, stop.
Yeah.
I can't keep beating myself up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like to educate people on how our mind works, right? Put it this way, your ego is not your friend. So that's the part of your mind that's going, I'm not good enough. I'm an ass. I'm like this. I'm like that. I'm fat. I'm ugly. Whatever it is that your mind is saying, right? Oh my gosh, I have to do this. Blah, blah. That's your ego. Your ego is just like nonstop chatter. And sometimes we have to say, shut up, right? Like just be quiet. Because that happened to me recently, right? I was having a nap. I went to a retreat. I came home. I was having a nap. I was like, la la la, and I go to have a nap, and my mind is just like chatter, chatter, chatter. You should be working. You should be working on your business. You took the weekend off. Blah 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 blah, and it's going on. And then finally, I'm just like, shut up, right? And so I just was like, you are not my friend, right? You're not looking out for me. You're not my friend. So be quiet. And then, of course, I started laughing because I'm going, here, I'm telling my mind to be quiet. But you have to almost put that ego in a corner and tell it to just stop, right? but it's there for a reason, right? And this is again what I coach people, because it's there to keep you safe. It doesn't like you, but it's there to keep you safe. Then we come into the heart, and that's where, like, one thing I learned too through this meditation, the soul child, is like, what would love say? Like, would love be talking to you like that? This is now my favorite thing to ask myself, right? Because this is new, and I'm like, I like that. So if I'm going down whatever rabbit hole I'm going down, it's like, wait a minute, would love say that? Would love talk to yourself like that? No, it wouldn't. All right, so let's change that thought, right? I mean, it doesn't happen that easily, right?
No, but it's, well,
But this is more control.
Walking away from alcohol. Not, I have not had that problem, but walking away from alcohol is the same thing. Walking away from cigarettes is the same thing. You have to mentally stop yourself from wanting that cigarette or wanting that drink or wanting that eclair, whichever your vice is. And whether we want to admit it or not, our shadow self, that the ego, likes to sit there and play games with us because, yeah, we don't want you to get hurt, so we're going to hurt you first. It's the same reason why people, you can get a great guy in front of you, a great girl in front of you, and start to compare them to the other person that really hurt you, because your ego is sitting there going, but don't they remind you of such and such? And remember how good that was? Oh, don't you want to do that again? But this person could be just totally opposite of that, but your ego is going, hey.
Yeah.
And that's different than your gut.
Yes. And we need to listen to our gut. Mm-hmm. It's funny, speaking of, I just listened to it recently. Most of the time I'm pretty good with it, but there's sometimes I don't. And then it's like, I should have listened to my gut feeling, right? And there was a lady, I don't generally do house calls, right? Unless it's by referral for safety, right?
Right.
So there was a lady that reached out to me, and she goes, do you do house calls? I said, well, she seemed like a nice lady on the phone and this and that. And I ended up, this is where I had to learn some boundaries, right? Anyway, I heard about her whole life story and all her health challenges and stuff like that. For whatever reason, I went, okay, yeah, sure, I'll see you on Saturday. But something wasn't sitting right. I still don't know what it was, but there was something that said, don't do it. Don't go and treat this woman. Also, hearing all her health issues, there was something that was just like, I don't think this is a good idea. And then she wanted to try my products and stuff like that. And, to help in the meantime and stuff. Right. So I said, you know what? And then I reached out and I did some muscle testing with myself, and same thing. Don't, like, a hard no. Right. So, but I thought, okay, I feel okay going to her place, dropping off some products. She doesn't drive, and I had to go out to her neighborhood anyway. So I went over there, went in, and there was just this icky feeling. Like, I was like, I got to get out of here. I don't even know what it was. I just knew. I listened to my gut, and I was like, I cut the conversation short. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but whatever it was like, get out.
Yeah.
So I did, right? And I'm glad I did. I mean, I don't know what it was, and nor does it matter. I don't need to know why. I just have to listen to, just drop this off, do what I need to do, and then go. And then she wanted to book in something, and I was just like, no, I'm busy for the next month or two. Right. So, and I haven't heard from her since, which is fine. Right. So I reached out a couple of times, just to see how she was doing on the products. But it was, something's not right. And I'm just listening to me. So
yeah, you have to. I mean, I remember my first date with my first husband. He had asked me out. He had delivered a TV set the week before to my house, and we talked and seemed to hit it off. And he had asked me out because he forgot the remote. Yeah, I'm thinking that was a whole scam, but that's neither here nor there now. But he asked me out, and then that day of the date, it's like my back started hurting. I was young. I was like 21, 22. My back's hurting. I went to an art gallery exhibit with one of my friends, and I even called him and tried getting out of the date. And I ended up going. And I look back now, it's like, your body and your gut was trying to tell you not to. Even my wedding day was the same way. Anything that could have happened the day of our wedding pretty much did. And I still didn't listen. So it's like, I look back and go, wow, were you a freaking idiot? I don't regret it because I got to be a mom, but the fact is, it's like, had I not had that experience, because that really, I didn't want kids after that because I never wanted the risk of losing children again. So it's
Yeah.
like, had I not had that experience, I might have had kids of my own.
Yeah.
So it's really weird when you look back. It's like, were you insane? What the hell?
Yeah.
But
We don't listen or we manifest so in it, but we manifest it, right?
mm-hmm.
Speaking of weddings, I know my ex-husband will never listen to this, but I just know him. So, and if he does, oh well, whatever. um, but on my wedding day, because I always had, like, always in the back of my head, I always was like, I don't know, like, can someone really be with someone their whole entire life? Like, that's a really long time, right? But anyway, I met this guy, we got along, and we had a lot of laughs and everything. Anyway, got married. And I remember on my wedding day, I said to my friend, I'm like, I can't remember if I said it to my friend or said it to myself, but it doesn't really matter. But I'm like, oh, worst case scenario, I could get a divorce. Like, who says that on their wedding day?
I had an argument with my husband on the first husband on our wedding day. So,
right? It's funny, eh?
I mean,
I know not to say that again.
You were already looking at the potential. It's like you're already, I hate to say it, already setting that in motion, even though you didn't know you were setting it in motion.
Totally, totally. I look back, I remember there was one day I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, I said this on my wedding day to myself. Like, who does that? But I totally manifested my marriage ending, right?
I think we manifest a lot, whether there was a joke because there was somebody that I was interested in that was in a band and they had the same name as my husband. And I jokingly said to my friend, because they were like, well, what if he wasn't in a band? I'm like, I'd take him fat, bald, and broke. I tell my husband this later on, and I'm like, well, I said this, and this is, I never knew my husband. Okay, so this was like in the mid 90s when I said this, and I meet my husband in the early 2000s, and we did work down the street from each other. So that was a whole nother weird thing, but didn't know him. So early 2000s. So we're together now. We're not married yet. And I said to him, I said, yeah, I once said I'd take somebody fat, bald, and broke. And he's like, you got me. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Same name. There you go. So
oh my God, I love it. You are hysterical, my friend.
Thanks.
We manifest everything, and we really do. And then we mirror, like, everybody mirrors us. That's a whole other. I was like, I remember learning about mirror. Do you know mirror work?
I think so, a little bit. But back to real quick, my friends.
Sorry. There's me going like this.
No. My friends used to call me manifesting girl, and I mean, as an adult, they were calling me manifesting girl. And it's like after my husband died, though, it was kind of like I've lost my way to do that, but I'm sure I haven't. But it's one of those things where it's still like, okay. But anyway, mirror work. Let's talk.
Yeah. Well, you did mention to me that our conversation would be all over the place, yes, right?
That's why. If you were sitting at a coffee shop, would it not be like that?
Yeah, well, of course it would. but manifesting, yeah. I mean, we do manifest good, we manifest bad, but we manifest, that's for sure. Yeah, mirror work. That's something that I know, like how everybody, like if you're judging somebody, they're just mirroring you, right? Like we're judging ourselves, right? And if you don't like the way, whatever it is, right? And it's hard sometimes. But I remember listening to and their lessons, right? And I remember listening to this woman. I think her name's Lisa Nichols. I don't know if you know who Lisa Nichols is, an inspirational speaker, and oh my God, she's amazing. And she talked about mirror work, but this type of mirror work was looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, like some people, they'll just stare at themselves. Try it. It is hard. Like you want to look away, you want to do this. There's ego trying to take you out. But one of the
I was going to say, when I was a little girl, my mom yelled at me because I would look in the mirror all the time because I wanted to see what everybody else saw. And she yelled at me about it.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So this woman, she spoke about, okay, like it's working out, I can never pronounce it, the hope and open. It's a Hawaiian meditation. So they say, and I probably might not get this in the right order, but it's okay. I think you start off, and it's 4 sayings. You say, I love you, thank you, I'm sorry, no, please forgive me, thank you, I'm sorry, I love you. Something along that line. Like there's four things that you say, and there's an order that you say it in. And then you say this over and over and over again, right? Because you're forgiving yourself, right? So the mirror work, she had, I think it was three things you say, and you come up with seven different things. I'm probably not going to get it 100% right, but basically you're saying to yourself, Karen, I'm proud of you that, and you come up with seven things. Karen, I forgive you that, for whatever it is. It can come from childhood, whatever it is. And you can say the same thing over and over again. And then, I think the last part is Karen, I commit to you, whatever it is you want to commit to. I'm going to commit to being kind. I'm going to commit to, I don't know, maybe I'll do the dishes, whatever, right? Clean my house, fine, right? Whatever it is, right? And I started doing it, and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then that's me not wanting to do the work, right? So it's coming back up to me that it's time to go do it. So that's mirror work, right? It's really getting into that deep and telling your soul, or telling yourself and forgiving yourself, right? So that's where that's deep work. And she said, you'll know when you've actually let go and forgiven yourself when the tears start pouring out, which is probably why I'm avoiding doing it, because I'm like, I don't want to.
Nobody wants to go. Yeah, nobody wants to go there. Well, it's like, mirror work, you're talking about mirror work, and it's funny because I do a weekly intuitive podcast, and I read the cards, and I'm not paying, I'm just doing it, da, da, da. But when I have to edit it, when I go back and listen, it's like, it feels like I am reading for myself, because I'm watching the video and it's like, no, I got it. Sorry, didn't pay attention earlier. Understand now.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing. Cool. Readers can't read for themselves. Record yourself. You can read for yourself just fine, because then you're listening because you're giving a message to everybody. When you pull your own cards, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's so true. And I did another one where I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just stare. And I was like, which eye do I look into? Right? Which eye do I? And my friend said, look into your left. So, okay, fine. Maybe that's the heart side. I don't know. Sure. So I sat there and I just stared and stared. And I'm looking at my left eye. And this was the most trippiest thing ever. My face, and your viewers might go, who is this person? But it was weird. It was really weird. My face morphed.
Okay.
And then it went black, like just black.
Ooh,
and I was like, yeah. And I was like, is this like a shadow or something? I was like, this is and I couldn't stop staring at my face. And I'm going, it was starting to hurt my eyeballs, right? Because I was like, this is weird. And then I would stop. And then I'm like, okay, let's try it again tomorrow. I do the same thing. My face would just morph, and then it would just go black. So I was chatting with a friend of mine. She's a shaman. And I said, I don't know what this is about. She goes, because probably however many generations, this is probably like a past life thing. Right. So I was like, oh, okay. Maybe I was colored in a past life, who knows? Right. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. But it was interesting because I tried to do it again and I didn't change color that time. So I was like, okay, I'll take it, right? Because I don't know what else to like. So it was very bizarre. But I know, again, it's like just get past that, because sitting quiet, you get messages.
Right.
I've sit quiet long enough, so I haven't got there yet.
I meditated 5 years ago, and my father-in-law tells me, my husband was still alive at that point, clean the house, declutter it, get it all ready. You need to do that because you're not going to have time in the future. And I was like, yeah, okay. I look back now and go, you idiot. You'd be sitting pretty right now had you listened, but no, you're like, oh no, I'll get it done. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The generation,
those messages back then. Hey, it's like
the generational thing, though. I mean, it's funny because I talked to a healer not too long ago. She's actually coming on the show. And she did a clearing for me, and she went back to generational stuff and everything else to try to clear those blocks. And I mean, that's the thing. It's like and I've talked about this on the podcast, that you can look at your grandparents and you can say, oh, my grandparents, they were so great. And your parents occasionally will look at you hanging out with your grandparents and be like, That's not who raised me. I don't know who this person is. That's not who raised me. Well, the fact is they're not, because you're not there 24/7 with them, and it's a different life. They've matured. They have grown some, so they see different patterns. They're not going to be the same person. So we can look at that generational trauma and know that yes, something came from our parents, got something. I mean, when I looked at my dad's mom, I always thought as my grandmother. My grandpa used to call her the general. She was in charge. Okay, it wasn't until she came up to live with us that she's telling my husband about drinking the men under the table before, when she would go out by having a little casserole, then she'd drink like crazy and have no problem. There's a reason for the story. All right. So then when I look at my dad, after my parents split, my dad started drinking a lot. And I can never understand. But then it's like, well, wait a second. So if my grandmother liked to party like this, not saying she did when she was a kid, but I'm sure at that time when he was little, they still had cocktails and stuff. So depending on how that betrayed, and I will never know those secrets, he very well could have picked that up from there.
Yeah.
But we don't see that person. We don't see that grandparent necessarily as that. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. I mean, my mom's dad, I saw him drink. I was in a bar at the age of 9 years old because I'm with him on occasion.
Right. Yeah.
Which I know, how is an 8 or 9-year-old getting in a bar, but it's New Orleans. So folks, it's New Orleans in the 70s. Nobody really cared. Bring the kids along. They can sit
in here too. Yeah.
I mean, nowadays that would not happen, but back then
it was an experience.
That's right. Ride in the back of a pickup truck, no seatbelts or anything. Just ride the back.
Oh gosh, awesome.
I mean, you don't no, dare I say, no helicopter parenting back then. No.
It's all good. It's all good.
We survived. That's
right. And you're here today and you're doing these podcasts and you're sharing it with the world. So yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So, where do you see yourself going with, your business? I mean, I know you're going to continue to grow it. So have you written a book? Are you planning on writing a book?
I am one day. I'm not there yet. And actually, there was one time I was journaling. I'm a big fan of journaling. I resisted for the longest time. And apparently in my journal, I'm actually going to be creating a game. Not sure what that looks like yet, but that's come up quite a few times for me. So
a board game or an app?
I'm thinking a board game. I don't want to do an app. I don't want to. Or something. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I'm jotting down ideas, but we'll see. We'll see where that takes me. But one of the things, like for me, I really want to teach people, especially right now, how to find joy again and find that freedom, whatever that looks like to that person, right? Because freedom can mean, so many different things to everybody, right? And so that's what I want to do. And I just finished becoming a laughter yoga teacher. No, I think I'm a leader. I forget what I'm considered. But anyway, I just finished doing a laughter yoga. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's all about laughter on purpose. And so I just finished doing a workshop on that, and it's amazing. And it's about laughing on purpose, no fancy poses, nothing like that. It's all about laughing because laughing is good for your immune system. You actually work your ab muscles, and if I can lessen doing exercise, I'll laugh more. Right? So those good belly laughs where you go, oh my god, my cheeks, oh my god, my stomach, those are muscles, right? Mm-hmm. So so I'm doing that, and I actually want to take a workshop on breath work. I call it the crazy breath work, but that's a whole other topic. But again, it's about bringing joy back into people's lives. Well, we need that.
Yeah, I mean, with everything still going on, that there's so much uncertainty. And I mean, there's always uncertainty in the world. I understand that. But whether you need a vaccine to go here, whether you need this to go there, what do you need? Are we going to have this food? How's inflation going to do? I mean, there's just a lot of chaos right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think a lot of people are still really afraid, and it doesn't matter which side of the fence you sit on and stuff like that. But a lot of people are still afraid and of dying, but it's like people have to remember to live. We got to let's come back to living, because we don't know when our time is up. We really don't. And it could be today, tomorrow, 50 years from now. I don't know. But come back, let's live for today.
There was a line in a preview of Braveheart. I'm not even going to go with the movie itself because I've watched Braveheart, but the line is always what stood out to me. And that was, every man dies, but not every man truly lives.
Yeah.
And that's so very true, because I mean, we get so wrapped up in what we think we should have and where we think we should be that we forget how to live.
Yeah. This whole thing has taught me to be present and, to live every day. I mean, I still, I mean, again, I'm human, right? And go through my own stuff, but it's really taught me to be present. It's teaching me patience. Oh my God, this has taught me a lot of patience. It's like, Jesus, can this thing be done now? Right. But, again, be patient. This is a journey. Things will balance out. I truly do believe things will balance out. And I do think things will get better. Right. Here's that's what I'm sticking to anyway.
Yeah.
There's hope. I believe there's hope, right? Because there's a lot of good stuff coming that's happening. So,
well, it's, back to the universe talk, I was listening to a podcaster about the full moon in Leo that we just had. And it's like, the one big thing that we have is, and some people think this is all hooey, but I don't think you will. Yeah. The fact is that the full moon in Leo this past week was all about letting go of the past, getting rid of things, amping up our vibration, and that we can choose to stay and do absolutely nothing. And she said, I have clients that are like, I'm not doing that work. I'm not letting that go. And she says, well, I look at them and I said, okay, you can do it at a later date. It's going to be harder, or you can choose not to do it and just be stuck. But what's happening is we're all migrating to this place. And the scary thing about it is, as she kept calling it, is the unknown. And it was like, because that's where I'm kind of at personally in my own journey. It was just like, when she said that, it was like, okay, I get it. Because right now, yeah, there's a lot of the fear of the unknown, because starting back in 2020, we all had this expectation of, oh, I can go to a concert, I can go to the movie, I can go to dinner. I haven't been to a restaurant since, I want to say, beginning of 2020.
Look at all the money you're saving.
I still occasionally get soup at the Chinese takeout, okay. But it's one of those things where it's like, what expectation of life and we're missing all that contact that we used to have. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the scary thing. It's like, what happens as we get out? I mean, unfortunately, your name is Karen, so you have now had the bad rap. It's like you were saying, perfectly good Georges. There's perfectly good Karens, but now Karen has a rap.
Apparently, but we'll get stuff done, I tell you.
But I mean, it's like social decorum has gone out the window occasionally because nobody knows how to deal with each other socially. And I know in a way that started before the pandemic ever did, because one of my stepdaughters was a substitute teacher for a while. She was trying to get into the school district, and then she was a substitute teacher. And this is in the late, like 2009, 2008. And she was telling me how kids didn't want to let go of their cell phones. She's like, they would talk to each other via text in the class. And she's like, look, we all need to communicate. She's like, they were mortified when I actually took their phones away and made them break into groups to actually sit down and talk to each other. But I think that's part of the reason between now with, no social contact, and then we have cell phones and social media. So what is real and how do we act when we don't have that instant gratification or it's improper?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. And sometimes I find, like, what is real and what is not?
The Matrix.
Right? Exactly. And you get to create what's actually kind of cool, I think, is you can create your own reality.
Yeah.
Okay, there might be certain things that you can do and you can't do. Okay, yeah, that's just.
No, there's certain things. I always look at like, okay, quick example is my husband was working a block away from me, 2 blocks away from me. Never saw each other. And then I went to take a class, and the teacher's like, you need to take my other class because there's somebody in there you have to meet, who ended up being his ex-girlfriend. Oh. So lo and behold, even though it had been years apart, he was on my timeline because she was pushing me to meet her so I'd meet him. Yeah. Very so, cool. I mean, there's certain things I think, yes, there's fixed points, and then there's other points that aren't so fixed. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. It really is. And it's like, what kind of journey do you want to be on? Right.
Right.
So, and that again is part of what I do. What journey do you like? What do you want?
Right.
Right. Half the time people don't even know what they want. They know what they don't want. I had a client, I'll tell you this quickly. I had a client who I just said to her, I said, if you could have the or no, what is it that you would like for 2020 or 2022, whatever. God, I don't want to go back in time. No, thank you.
No.
What would you like for 2022? Right? Or what would be your perfect day? Money is not an issue. We live in a perfect world. Let's just pretend. Right? And she goes, I don't know. And then all of a sudden she goes, oh, I'd go on a nice vacation or I'd have a nice bath. I'd work on stuff. I don't know, whatever it was that she came up with. She came up with stuff, right? From going like, I have no idea to, okay, actually there are things, I want to work on myself now. 3 weeks later, she messages me. She goes, Karen, I need to get an ASAP for a massage. When's your first available? I've had a lot of trauma lately, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, she came in. As soon as she claimed that she wanted to work on herself, her and her husband got in a big fight and she kicked him out.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, the universe, let's clear that out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, there's more to the story, but it's like, and she's having the best time. And she's like, obviously she has her ups and downs, but she's working on herself and she wants to take a course and she's manifesting certain things in life. So it's, it's just, you can create whatever you want. Right. So,
right. And that's the thing. The mind is a powerful thing. So you have to watch your thoughts and your words.
Yeah. Please. So anyway.
On that note, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about?
Oh my God, I feel like you and I could probably talk for a really long time.
You can always come back.
I would love to, and I would love to have you. I have a podcast,
okay.
And its new name is called Freedom Starts Now.
Okay.
So that starts March. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's coming up soon. And I would love to have you on mine. So that's my new podcast. Stay tuned, and you'll see it up on social media and on YouTube. But I have something that I'm doing every Friday called Freedom Fridays at 12 o'clock Eastern time, PM, that is. I get some people that is like, is that AM? Oh gosh, I don't want to be doing anything other than sleeping at AM. But anyway, so it's 12 PM Eastern time. You can go to my website to find the link, 50 and free, spell it out, 50andfree.ca. And Freedom Fridays is about doing breath work and doing this laughter yoga. And again, it's not about fancy poses, but come check it out. You'll have a lot of fun. And I usually do a little tip around something at the end. So yeah, it's half an hour and it's free.
Well, thank you for the info. I may end up doing that one day. And thanks for coming on the show and inviting me to yours.
And thank you so much. This was, I really enjoyed that. And getting to know you.
You're welcome. So Karen and I had a lovely conversation, and you can tell that we got along well. And, there's a certain thing when you hit 50 years old that it's kind of like you realize that you have to take, this is the last dance of your life. And I'm not saying that really it's the last dance, because 50, you can still live to be 100. You can be over 100. So you still have a large time frame, but there's certain things that happen to you after 50 that, just like being a teenager, are certain marks of your life and changing. In certain realms, you go from being a woman to being the crone because your body has now changed. But we didn't even get into that. We talked about the universe and manifesting. And let's talk about this, folks. How many times have you said something and had it, lo and behold, come out the exact same way? Really think about what you say. And I'm just as guilty. I admit that. And yes, I read cards and I intuitively get hits. But even for me, sometimes my ego will get in there and go, wait a second, you're not supposed to be doing that. Wait a second. Think about this. Because we don't want to believe that something is possible. Because if something is so true, if something you feel in your heart is so real, why can't we accept it? Because, we're taught that things can never be that good. Things won't last. But why can't they? Why can't they? So if you have something that you really want to go after, if you want to work on yourself, then you're going to work on yourself. You have to make that commitment. You have to be willing to say, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to live my life. And as I said, I'm on a new journey now, and that's a whole wild ride in itself. So if you're on a new journey, which I think kind of all of us are, because as we talked about with the virus, it's changed our lives. So even if we have the same jobs, we still operate differently. So with these changes, what other changes do you want to make in your life? What do you want? What do you see your future self? And as I talked about in the podcast, with this new moon or the full moon we just had, we had we're taking steps to walk into the unknown. And that's a very scary place because we don't know where we're going. But the truth of the matter is, even though sometimes we think we know where we're going exactly, it's not always there. So sometimes the thrill of the unknown or fear, however you choose, you have to be careful with, because if you're doing the thrill, that's the anticipation, the joy. But if you're walking into the new world with fear, what are you manifesting in that world? What boogeyman are you manifesting? That's what I'm talking about, that you have to pay attention to your words. The unknown is there. And truthfully, even if you manifest something, you're not going to be sure it's manifested until you were right there. And you have to be specific about what you manifest, i.e. my husband. I love my husband, don't get me wrong. But it was just one of those, it was a running joke between him and I. So when you look at things, be clear about what you want to manifest. Be clear about what you want to create and make it happen. So embrace your new journey, step into the unknown, because no matter what, if you have to do the work, it's going to come back. It's kind of like she was saying, you can choose to eat garbage and be unhealthy and pay the cost later with medical bills, or pay a little bit higher price and be healthy now and not have the medical bills. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, or you have a question, comment, or concern, please email me at Donna, DAUNA, at better2podcast.com. That's Donna at better2podcast.com. If you missed an episode and would like to catch up, you can find it at whatever site you are subscribed to, or you can go to better2podcast.com. All our social media links are there, as well as our Patreon account. And well, I think that about covers it. Oh, if you want to leave a review, you can do so on Apple or podchaser.com. So on that note, I hope you have a wonderful day, weekend, evening, whenever you choose to listen. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye. The Better 2 podcast is mixed, edited, and produced by Rich Zai of Third Ear Audio Productions.